You meet her at a friend's engagement party, wearing the only suit jacket you own that doesn't have a coffee stain on the sleeve, and you have no idea, in that moment, that her last name is the kind of name that has its own wing in a museum. She laughs at something you say, genuinely, not politely, and for the rest of the night, you forget to be nervous. It isn't until 3 weeks later, Googling her name out of idle curiosity, that you find the Wikipedia page. That's when the nervousness comes back, and it doesn't fully leave for the next 2 years. Here's what almost nobody believes when you tell this story later. You didn't know? Not really. Not in a way that changed anything for the first several months. She dressed like anyone else on a Tuesday. She split the bill the first 3 dates, out of habit or principle, you're never entirely sure which. It's only when she casually mentions the house in Nantucket, like it's a spare bedroom, that the scale of it starts to actually register. You fall for her anyway, for reasons that have nothing to do with any of it. The specific way she laughs before she finishes her own jokes, how she remembers the names of people she's met exactly once, the fact that she reads the last page of a book first every single time and refuses to explain why. None of that shows up on a Wikipedia page. None of it should matter less because of what does. But somewhere around month 6, meeting her family for the first time, you understand that falling for her and marrying into her family are going to be 2 very different experiences, and only one of them is entirely about her. The dinner happens at a house that technically has a name, the kind estates get instead of addresses. Her grandmother sits at the head of a table longer than your entire studio apartment and asks you, within the first 4 minutes, what your family does. Not what you do, what your family does, as though your value might be more efficiently assessed at the source. You tell the truth. Your mother teaches 3rd grade. Your father repairs HVAC systems. There's a pause after you say it. Not hostile exactly. More like a brief recalibration. The sound of a room quietly deciding what to do with a piece of information that doesn't fit its usual categories. Her grandmother says, "How wonderful, hands-on work," in a tone you'll spend the next year trying to decide was genuine or not. Her father is friendlier, in the specific way powerful men are friendly to people they haven't yet decided matter. Warm, expansive, asking you questions about your job with what reads as real interest, though you notice, later, he never once asks about your plans, your ambitions, where you see yourself in 5 years. You realize eventually that this was an oversight. He already has a 5-year plan for you in his head. He's just waiting to see if you'll fit it. When you propose, nervous, at the restaurant where you had your 3rd date, ring bought with 11 months of careful saving, she says yes before you've even fully finished the sentence, and for one entire evening, none of the family, the money, the history exists. It's just the 2 of you. The prenup conversation happens 2 weeks later, over coffee, initiated not by her, but by a family lawyer who requests a meeting with the careful formality of someone who has had this exact conversation dozens of times with dozens of people who weren't you specifically, but who were, in every way that mattered to this family, exactly your type. The document is 51 pages. You read every one of them in a small conference room, while 3 lawyers who aren't yours watch you read. It isn't cruel, not technically. You're not asked to sign away anything you actually had. There was never anything to sign away. What the document actually protects is everything that was always going to be hers regardless. The trust, the properties, the family foundation seat that comes with the name. You sign it. There's a strange grief in signing a document that formalizes, in 51 pages of legal language, the exact shape of the gap between you. The wedding itself becomes, almost immediately, less yours than you expected. Not through anyone's cruelty. Through 100 small decisions made by people whose entire careers are making decisions like this. The venue is chosen before you're consulted. The guest list balloons to 400 people, most of whom you've never met, business associates and family friends, and one senator's chief of staff, seated at tables with more expensive centerpieces than your childhood home's monthly grocery budget. Your parents come, standing slightly apart at the edges of a room built for a world they don't move through easily, and you catch your mother, mid-reception, quietly counting the flower arrangements like she's doing math she can't stop herself from doing. Later she'll tell you it was beautiful. She won't tell you, not directly, that she felt like a guest at her own son's wedding rather than family. You'll just know, the way you know your mother's specific silences. You marry the person you love, in front of 400 people, at least 350 of whom you will never see again after this single night. Married life settles into something that looks, from a distance, exactly like the life you'd have built with anyone, except every room you enter carries an invisible asterisk. At dinner parties, people ask you gently probing questions designed to figure out, without asking directly, exactly how much money you personally have, which is to say, not very much, which is to say, everyone in the room already knows the answer and is asking anyway. You keep your own job. You insist on this, quietly but firmly, in one of the only conversations where you draw a line and don't move it. But the paycheck that once felt substantial now reads, in this new context, like an allowance you happen to also work 40 hours a week to earn. You pay for the small things. She, or more accurately her family's accountants, handle everything else, in a system so seamless you rarely even see the mechanics of it happening. The strangest part isn't the money itself. It's the way you start second-guessing every decision that touches it. Whether wanting a nicer car makes you look like you're after something, whether declining a gift makes you look ungrateful, whether accepting it makes you look exactly like what her grandmother's silence, back at that first dinner, seemed to be quietly wondering if you were. 2 years in, her father offers you a job, a real one, a genuine position at the family's holding company, 6 figures, the kind of opportunity that would take most people 15 years to earn on merit alone. It arrives dressed as generosity. It is also, unmistakably, an offer to fully absorb you into the machine, to make your financial identity indistinguishable from theirs, to close the gap the prenup so carefully preserved. You say no. It's the hardest conversation of the marriage so far, harder than the prenup, harder than the wedding guest list. Her father doesn't understand the refusal. From where he sits, you're turning down an obvious upgrade. Your wife understands it instantly, and it's in that moment, not the wedding, not the proposal, that you realize she actually sees the difference between the family's version of care and your own need to remain, in some real way, a person who built something himself. Things are different after that, in ways that are hard to fully summarize. Her father respects you slightly more, in the specific way powerful men respect refusal, even when they don't understand it. Her grandmother, unexpectedly, becomes warmer. You learn, months later, that she once turned down a similar offer herself, decades ago, from a version of this same family in a slightly earlier era, and recognized something in you she hadn't expected to. You never fully stop noticing the gap. Some version of it exists forever, quietly, at every dinner party, every family gathering, every unconsciously casual mention of a house with a name instead of an address. But you learn, slowly, that the gap isn't actually the story. The story is a woman who read the last page of books first, who laughed before her own jokes finished, who chose, over and over, the version of a life that included you exactly as you were, instead of the significantly easier version that would have absorbed you into something bigger and asked you to disappear a little to fit. Marrying into money doesn't erase who you were before it. If anything, it tests it more precisely than almost anything else could, every day asking, in 100 small quiet ways, whether you'll hold on to yourself or slowly let the money finish the job of defining you that you were supposed to do yourself. The families with real money have seen every kind of person walk through their door, hoping to become part of something bigger than themselves. The ones who last aren't the ones who blend in seamlessly. They're the ones who never fully do. If you've ever felt like an outsider in a room that technically welcomed you, you already know this story better than you think. Drop a heart if you get it, and subscribe for more real stories about the lives you never see coming.